Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seriously Loco, the Seriously Crazy fan podcast for El Paso Locomotive FC. I'm your host, Phil Bakke. I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Mikka Burrell. Mikka, how's your week been so far?
Not bad, man. The Euros are in full swing. Copa America is coming up later in the week. The summer of soccer. It's been fun watching the games and just getting into all of that. How's your week been?
Good. Yeah, this is, summer of soccer for sure. Like, it's one for the sickos because it's like
round the clock.
Yeah, we've got, tomorrow, for example, we've got a Locomotive midweek game in Oakland at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Oof.
And then we've got Euros in the morning, then that, and then I'm pretty sure Copa America kicks off on Friday, or
Thursday, I think, Argentina versus Canada.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, it's going to be round the clock, nonstop stuff. But I am, I'm enjoying so far. Not as much to enjoy about Locomotive's last game, the draw, 1-1 against Phoenix. We will get on to that in a little bit, but a little bit of admin at the top of the show. First and foremost, if you're finding us for the first time, welcome, and you can find us on your favorite podcast player, app, aggregator, whatever, Seriously Loco Soccer Pod, and if those apps or platforms allow you to rate and review, we would really appreciate that as it gets it in front of more locos. And yeah, you can find us on Twitter at Seriously Loco. And Mikka, I guess there's really no other place to start today. We're recording this Tuesday night. There's really no other place to start than the club's announcement this morning, or I guess this afternoon, that Liam Rose, who played 63 games for the club and was here for the better part of 3 seasons, is departing by mutual. Well, it was reported initially that he is departing by mutual consent, and then subsequently reported by the club that he has been transferred for an undisclosed fee. I guess the big thing here, regardless of the nature of the departure, is this feels, quite similar to other sort of shock departures that we've had. Probably closer to Bensay in terms of potential impact, as Liam has been absolutely central to the squad this year, and really over the last 2 seasons has been key to the midfield picture at Locomotive, and they will be without him going forward.
Yeah, no, literally central to Locomotive's starting 11 most weeks. He was always there alongside usually Eric Calvillo, maybe Bolo Akinyode more recently. But yeah, Liam, to be fair to John Hutchinson, that's one of his enduring positive legacies is bringing Liam Rose to the club, because I think Liam's had a really great impact at the club. Not really in terms of goal contributions, but just in terms of being that steady presence in midfield, perhaps the closest analog to Richie Ryan. Not exactly the same player, but just in terms of the temperament and the professionalism. And of course, you can't avoid the comparisons, being that they both play kind of that 6 role. So yeah, Liam's been just a wonderful servant to the club, and we will definitely miss him. I think it leaves us a bit light in midfield, and just the numbers overall, because I know we'll get on to the other roster moves. But yeah, 63 appearances for the club, I think it was, in all competitions, 1 goal, 2 assists. It's been wonderful having Liam in the side, and yeah, those are big boots to fill. It seems that the move was wanted by Liam. He did, have his first child, relatively recently, and it's my understanding that, they want to be able to go home to Australia and enjoy that with their family. And we'll see what club he lands at, as I'm sure he's not done. playing at the highest levels he can get to. He's only 27, so like right in his prime. And yeah, it's a big loss for Locomotive. But yeah, you mentioned it briefly there that the communication was a little inconsistent from the club as far as saying on Instagram that he's transferred for a fee and saying everywhere else that it's just a mutual parting of the ways. So, I suppose it could be both, but it's just odd that they pick one outlet to say that he's transferred for a fee and not the others. I just found that a little bit bizarre. But I suppose that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I wish Liam the best, and I know we'll miss him.
Yeah, I think, just in terms of, he was one of the steady sort of first name on the team sheet type of players. And it will be interesting to see how we cope with his departure. Like you said, we wish him the absolute best. And I can only imagine the difficulty of having a kid, thousands of miles from home and family support and all those sorts of things. That is, I'm sure that has been challenging, and as long as it is what's best for him and his family, we obviously don't hold any ill will. But that being said, it is going to be, like you said, big boots to fill. And the structure in midfield does raise a handful of questions, because we've sort of been deploying Eric Calvillo in a wide attacking midfielder sort of role. Does Eric come back into central midfield to fill that gap? It feels like the most natural sort of solution. But then, does that mean that we play someone like Joaquin Rivas in the role that we've been deploying Eric in? And does he fit those, fit what we need in that area? Anyways, it does raise just some questions on balance and what Wilmer's got in mind. This came on the heels of, like you said, the announcement of a couple other departures, which came a day prior. And it was Diego Abarca and Elijah Martin, who were announced were also leaving the club. And Diego Abarca, obviously, one of the first real academy products, I think you could point to come through the system at Locomotive and make an impact of any sort on the first team. He obviously scored that wonderful goal against Hartford at home last season, which was just was that 2 seasons ago now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So he made a splash as a teenager, obviously was in and around the first team squad, but never really put his stamp on the team in terms of serious first team minutes. And Elijah Martin, just a little bit of a failure to cope and adapt to the move and life in and around El Paso. So his only appearance for the club actually comes unofficially in the friendly against FC Juarez Bravos. So between Diego and Elijah, obviously a defender, one of the defenders that we thought would be more key, I guess, this season in Elijah Martin, and then a youth product who always sort of threatened to make more of an impact on the squad, but never really was able to break through in Diego.
Yeah, I mean, first on Diego Abarca, am I correct that he made his debut under John Hutchinson?
Yeah.
Yeah, so John Hutchinson, Brian Clarehout, and now Wilmer Cabrera, that's 3 managers who really didn't trust Diego Abarca with more minutes, and I think that's a shame, because I think you could see that there was some talent there, but perhaps not enough to be chosen or picked in comparison to the other players that we have. And I guess that's fair enough, and that's football. But Abarca, he's only 18. Actually, he'll be 19 years old tomorrow. So happy early birthday to him. So yeah, he's got so many more years ahead of him if he wants to continue to pursue a professional career. I think he absolutely could do so, or whatever he decides to do. I'm sure he'll fully land on his feet. But yeah, it's just a shame that we never got to really see a youth academy player really stake a claim in the first team. But there's still hopefully many years ahead of us to get to see something like that. And yeah, I think we'll always remember that curler against Hartford was a great goal. I think that was like mere minutes after coming on as a substitute in that game. So he gave us a really great memory to remember him by. And he's a hometown boy, so I'm sure people will have nothing but goodwill towards him. But with Elijah Martin, I mean, that's really the most, I think, bizarre case of the three. It's our understanding that when he arrived in El Paso, he was actually quite ill, just wasn't feeling the best, dealing with allergies and all kinds of things like that. Really hadn't trained or had much of a preseason that we know of. So it was always going to be an uphill battle for him to try and get up to match fitness and get in the squad. And it seems like there were maybe some personal issues or off the pitch things that he was dealing with on the side. So, yeah, it just sounded like it was mutually beneficial for both parties to part ways. And Elijah leaves never having made a competitive appearance, I don't think, for Locomotive. So, it's a shame. It's one of those things, you know, sometimes not every transfer is going to work out. And I think we had high hopes for what he could bring, having been a decent performer for San Diego Loyal, but hopefully he will find somewhere where he can apply his trade and get back to his best, because it just hasn't worked for him here. And, you know, I think fair enough to the club to recognize that and not just let it go on, right? So that being said, though, yeah, I mean, obviously 3 players gone in the span of a few days. Liam being, of course, the most shocking because he plays almost 90 minutes against Phoenix on Saturday and he's gone by Tuesday. It's just a bit of a whiplash for the fans, I think. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting challenge for Wilmer Cabrera to try and fill that Liam Rose-sized hole against Oakland tomorrow. Yeah, we'll just have to see how we cope without him, and also what kind of reinforcements we might be trying to bring in, which it sounds like some are in the works. As we know, this club's always looking to improve when it can. And I think Wilmer's done enough to garner some support in the transfer window, right? So we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what is done in terms of any business, and I think there's certainly, you know, the type of player that you might think of with Wilmer where it's like, do we go on transfer market and look at former RGV Toros and just like that's the list of players. But no, I think I think you're seeing too the fact that it is a couple of midfielders and a defender departing, you know, does that suggest that those are the areas that Wilmer will look at? I think midfield, certainly with the departure of Liam, you almost certainly have to go out and find someone who can play central midfield. The question, does he trust like the back line depth enough at the moment to say like, hey, I want to go out and find a difference maker in attack, or and maybe shift the emphasis a little bit. But we shall see. It'll be interesting certainly to see what sort of business, if any, gets done. And I know without him officially being named the technical director, it obviously makes moves like these a little bit strange, because it's like, is Wilmer being handed the keys in the transfer market, or are these like front office decisions that are getting made in terms of incoming? So that's another little wrinkle, I guess, about this particular arrangement we're in. Right.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of picture what those conversations are like with recruitment these days, given that Wilmer is specifically not the technical director, but they can't sit and do nothing. I think that is possibly the worst thing that they could do.
Yeah.
But also shouldn't just bring players in for the sake of it. So we'll see.
Well, the last result obviously suggests that maybe there is work to be done as Phoenix 1-1 draw at home. I guess in many ways a draw at home is a is an improvement in ways for Locomotive, especially over how they played against Birmingham. But what did you make of this game, Mikka? And I know the viewing was a bit disrupted on Saturday, but as far as takeaways, is there anything in particular that stuck with you about the way this one played out?
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch the entire game, unfortunately. I did watch all of the first half, and then I did do my research on some highlights on the second half. Shout out to Christian, by the way, for manning the live tweeting and covering the press conference for Seriously Loco in my absence. But yeah, I mean, this was a big opportunity for El Paso Locomotive to finally get those elusive 3 points at home that have evaded us all season long. And, you know, the winless streak goes on even longer than just this season. I can't even tell you what we're at, like 200 something days now or something like that. Something absurd like that. I mean, unfortunately, I think there's a lot of bad habits that crept into this game. And perhaps chief among those is scoring first and then maybe not trying to bunker, but not really building on that in terms of having control and dominance of the ball. We let this Phoenix team have nearly 60% possession on our pitch. They outshot us nearly double, 12 shots to our 7, I think it was.
Yeah.
Granted, we were able to test the keeper a bit more, but I think it was just too easy for Phoenix to create shooting opportunities. And oftentimes we were just running back towards our own goal. And I think even in the first half, like, you could see that right after the goal. I think the goal was scored by Eric Calvillo in the 13th minute. And then right about at, I'd say maybe like the 20-minute mark is when we just couldn't get the ball back again, really, for any extended period of time. And then in the second half, Phoenix just had loads of opportunities. I think Formella has the ball in the net. It's called offside. There was another shot that could have nearly gone in. And finally, Armenakas does make us pay with some really slack defending. And I also have some questions about Pascual and his goalkeeping on the shot. But yeah, overall, just not a very convincing performance. Sure, you take the point. But this Phoenix team, I think, have shown that they're beatable. And I mean, it'll be frustrating to Wilmer Cabrera, who's been trying to diagnose the problems with this team, especially at home, and clearly he doesn't have the cure just yet.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and we can talk about things in sequence here, but I do think probably the toughest thing about this team is is the fact that rather than sort of grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck after taking the lead and just putting it away, or trying to exert some like dominance over proceedings, we just often are like, okay, this is a precious lead and we need to protect it as if it is, you know, like made of glass, I guess, or something, because we
unobtainium.
It just seems like we play nervous when we've got the lead, and it just feels like we don't want to get overextended, and like we've kind of been in these situations before, and it just feels like, yeah, some of the trauma has just stuck with this team quite deeply, and it's made it tough to get out there and keep attacking when it's like you're playing Phoenix. Yeah, they're not like the best team right now, but like form wise and everything, but they do have like people in the squad that can hurt you in any given moment, and trying to think that like you're going to get away with a 1-0 against Phoenix is just like, I don't know. To me, that's never the move, because you're always going to need like that second goal, that dagger, that moment, like to put it away. And so, yeah, it was, unfortunately, the way it played out just felt like just eminently predictable, just given how this team has performed at home over the last year and a half, and or, you know, probably going on whatever 2 full years of just like these sort of tough results at home. But I mean, talking about the actual action of the match, the early goal, in the opening 10 minutes, Locomotive do come out of the blocks in pretty good shape. They're pressing really intensely, and it is actually sort of that initial press and Liam Rose, of all people, who we spent the top of the show talking about, winning the ball back in Phoenix's attacking third, or defending third, I should say, and finding a quick outlet pass to Eric Calvillo, who Calvillo plays a ball down the line for Tumi Moshibane. I think it is a little bit of a no look too from Eric, but Tumi gets down the line, shapes a really great ball into a good area. Justin Dillon gets on the end of it, and the initial save from Rocco Rios Novos lands right at the feet of Eric Calvillo, who had, after Liam sort of initiated the move, and then follows the play into the box and gets the reward with the scraps on the rebound.
Yeah, it's obviously the start of the play is all thanks to Liam Rose, and I think this partnership of Liam Rose and Eric Calvillo is something that it's a real shame that it's being broken up, because I think the two have really gotten to know each other very well on and off the pitch and complement each other in a lot of ways, and you see it here. But Eric Calvillo is the star of this whole sequence with the really clever disguised pass to Tumi Moshibane, kind of no look. Gives everyone in front of him the eyes, and then from there he immediately starts sprinting into the box, making those late runs that we know he can. And it was, who was that? I think it was Zambrano who just lets Eric get away from him. He's completely asleep, and if I'm Danny Stone, I'd be absolutely furious with that defending, because he just completely loses his marker. And then by the time the ball is ricocheting into Eric Calvillo's path, it's too late. So yeah, it's just really, really smart, intelligent football from Eric Calvillo, and credit also to Tumi and Justin, of course, for keeping the chance alive and being there. One hopes that Justin Dillon can get out of this little funk that he's in. I think he should have more goals than he does. But to be fair to him, he does help create this one in a way. So yeah, we were flying early doors. Those first 15 minutes or so were very good in terms of ball progression. I thought Nick Hines on that left back spot was very good, bringing the ball up the pitch. And yeah, we just, for all the good things that we did in those first 15 minutes, we couldn't sustain it. So, through Eric, we have the lead for a considerable amount of time, but it was always a bit of a precarious one given the opposition, as you alluded to.
Well, and talking about dropping off, I mean, it did feel quite immediate in terms of that goal comes in the 13th minute, as he said, and then maybe there's a few more minutes of parity, I guess, in terms of game state and whatever X threat and all these sorts of things. But the Phoenix was sort of around the 20th minute. Phoenix ends up kind of camped in our area and or in our half, and sort of camped out in our area in the sense that we start giving a lot of free kicks away. And they
corners too
are sort of just delivering crosses into the box for a solid half hour in the game. It's just so do we think that there's maybe a little bit in there that perhaps Wilmer's words after the Birmingham game have landed a bit too well, in that I think we commit something 21 fouls and Phoenix commits 9 the whole game.
Yeah, we get 3 yellow cards as well.
Have we overdone it?
No, 4. Have we overdone? Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be smart, right, when you're taking these fouls and cards. And I don't know. I can't say definitively if we've overdone it or not. But what I will say is that maybe, because you and I have talked about this throughout the season so far, that, when we have gotten the lead for whatever reason, there is a drop off in intensity or attacking impetus. And I wonder almost if we are not giving enough credit to the opposition sometimes in the in those situations when that happens, because I feel like if I were Phoenix, we just give up this goal, it's the 13th minute, I'm thinking, well, this is El Paso Locomotive, like we can come back. And I think that, and therein lies the problem, right? Is that, like, it's true. I mean, there's plenty of evidence of it, of this season, of Locomotive just not being able to put these games away. So I do want to give a little bit of credit to Phoenix there, because I don't think that they ever let their heads drop.
Sure.
And, you know, they do have that winning mentality. They are the defending champions after all. And it's been somewhat of a challenging season for them, but still that winning mentality is developed over many seasons, and they certainly have that. And then, you know, when you have someone like Armenakas on the bench, I mean, you know, I think that's also something that we don't really have is like game breakers necessarily. I mean, Petar Petrovic can, on his day, be a very, very effective player in the final third, but he just hasn't had enough football this season, I don't think. Not yet, anyway. So, you know, he comes on in the 81st minute, and he's not able to impact the game in much the way that Armenakas did, although he had opportunities.
He almost wins the game, which would have been crazy. I think right. I think I put maybe in the group chat that I was like, the funniest possible outcomes would be, like, funniest possible outcome at the end of the game would be Petrovic scores a winner. Second funniest would be if we lose. And
it's an outstanding save from Rios Novo, which is really annoying.
It is a stunning save. Is this a fair? I don't know if this is probably not useful or relevant, but like Rocco Rios Novo as the Jordan Pickford of USL.
I guess I kind of see it. He's like not like the tallest or the most athletic, but he's effective and quite agile. So yeah, I guess I could see that, because he's like, FAMUB has him at 181 centimeters, which is not tall. That's what, 5? I don't actually know.
I don't know. Now I've got to
Google, help us.
Get the intern on that.
I think that's like 5'11" ish, right?
Yeah. That's what it looks like.
So yeah, he's not like that typical like monster in the net. So I do see the comparison you're trying to make.
Yeah, they're saying he's close to 6 foot, but we'll see.
Which for a goalkeeper is like kind of small.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything under 6 foot, I guess.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, he does make a pretty stunning save. But the weird thing, I guess, about this mentality thing for Locomotive, or this sort of propensity for dropping off or dropping back, is like there then are numerous kind of warning signs and like chances for Phoenix, which either go begging or the offside flag goes up in the case of like Darius Formella. And there isn't really, like, after these sort of like moments, there isn't really the reaction, I guess, you would expect in terms of like trying to cut these sort of chances out, where it seems like Phoenix continue to like repeat sort of the same patterns and get into these like dangerous areas with regularity, and the reaction from the squad like just wasn't really there in terms of finding out and solving that problem during the game of, okay, they are creating chances, like what is going on that could, that we could change, that could stem the tide a little bit here. It felt like we just never really figured out like how to disrupt their buildup, especially in the second half.
I mean, it goes back to what you were saying of, have we taken Wilmer Cabrera's kind of like be more cynical calls to their limit, I suppose, because it seems like our our response to someone's playing us off the park is foul them. Which, again, like, that can be effective if you're clever.
Sure.
But that can't be your only salve, if you will.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is as far as, like, I almost think it's subconscious, because I have a hard time believing that it's being coached of, like, score one and then we're going to bunker. Like, I just really doubt that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think, like, there's, like, a trauma that these players are dealing with, I guess, that just there's just a drop off and, like, a tendency to cede the game to the opposition. And to do that against a Phoenix Rising team, like, that was always going to be a fool's errand. But as for the actual, like, tactical answer to this, I couldn't tell you, and it only gets tougher now with the departure of Liam Rose. I mean, I suppose Bolo Akinyote has really got to become, like, that all-action midfielder rather than just, like, the more holding option, which, you know, I have no doubt that he could do it, but it'll just be interesting to see. I think, obviously, what we see in Oakland tomorrow night will be extremely informative for the near future of this club.
We Locomotive end the night, you know, as you mentioned, we have 7 total shots. 6 of those go on target, which you're thinking, like, that's a great rate of return, right, in terms of production. And obviously you'd probably want more than 7 shots on the night, but 6 on target, decent. Like, you're in theory testing the keeper a decent amount, all those things. And what we have to say is that apart from the goal, that Petrovic, like, late chance is really the only other time. So quite early in the game and then very, very late was really the only other time that Rios Nova was truly tested. And most of the other shots on target were kind of tame efforts. And it felt like maybe even in some of these moves, whether it was like an additional pass or like a player trying to cut in from outside or something like that, we weren't taking, it's not like we were taking a handful, like, yeah, we didn't get many chances, but the ones we got were really good. It's like, no, we sort of had like 3 good chances on the night, and we really only made one of them like actually truly dangerous, beyond what you'd expect, I guess. And most of the other shots were just kind of tame and into the arms of Rios Novo.
Yeah, I think there's this one, like, counter attack in the second half. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like a really slick move, 3-on-2, and I think the shot ends up being taken by Navarez, and it's just like really tame on the ground. And it's like, it's not really who you want chances like that falling to. Navarez is a very good footballer, don't get me wrong, but I mean, he's ostensibly a defender. You know, He does play like a wide midfield role in this game, but I don't think goal scoring is necessarily, like,
I mean, apart from when he's inside his own
except
half.
When he's in Tampa, at the Hilton, exactly. So
when he's in the buffet line at the Tampa Hilton.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, I think that's also kind of an issue of, like, chances are falling to players that, like, they shouldn't be necessarily.
Yeah.
But yeah, Petr Petrovic, like, he just, that chance is so gilt-edged, and he just can't, you know, through no fault of his own. Like, Rios Novo just does really well to, like, get back and get a paw to it. But I mean, what did you make of Armenakis' goal? Because I watched it a few times, and that's it. That's a situation where I'm like, yeah, like, 2-foot him.
Kick that
Maybe
dude.
not 2-foot him, but, like, you know what I mean? It's like there's like 4 players around him, and the I don't know. I'm not convinced by the goalkeeping either necessarily. I don't know if Pascual maybe was unsighted.
Yeah.
But, like, it looks pretty close to him. I don't know. Am I being harsh? I think the defending is not good, but I don't know. I could be convinced either way by Pascual's goalkeeping.
Yeah. the defending is crazy. It's one of those where for some reason he's standing between both of our center midfielders and in front of both of our center backs, and none of the four of them close him down. Like, I could understand a couple standing off, and probably the center backs could be forgiven a little bit for not stepping up to close down something from like 30 yards. But you're absolutely right. Like, Liam Roserball Akinyode needs to put a shoulder into him or dive in, like even dive in. Because if you give a free kick there, like it's an extremely low percentage free kick, you get a wall, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Whereas him getting to shoot basically uncontested for 30 yards, not ideal. And I think like I share the concern in that it looks like, and obviously it would take like maybe a few more watches, but it looks like to me, Pascal, like it's one of those goals where you're like, oh, the keeper has it covered, and then it's somehow in the back of the net, right? And you're like, it just looks
sneaks under him.
Yeah, it looks like he almost dives over it, like to an extent, or like just, and maybe he is unsighted, like maybe he's guessing, and just guesses the wrong height that it comes in at or whatever. But yeah, I think he'd be disappointed that's snuck in. I don't necessarily put it, you know, it's not maybe as egregious as some other, you know, like getting beat at your near post or something like that. And it is ultimately a shot that the fact that it's not being closed down at all is like certainly not his fault. But yeah, to me, it's not, it'll get some attention, I'm sure, for like goal of the week and things like that because it's from a distance, and like
the technique was quite good.
It's a good technique. I don't think that it's like, it's not an unsavable like stunner or something like that. It's not one of those where you think like, oh, he's just placed it so perfectly that it was just, you know, the keeper had no chance. Like, it seemed to me like Pascal was actually quite well positioned and just dives over it or misses it. So yeah.
I think, you know, what bothers me about it and why I think it looks odd is that there's like a bounce. Yeah. Like you don't really see that too often. Right. Where it's not saved. Right. And it kind of bounces like right in front of Pascal. And I like almost like, I feel like it should help him out. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm being cruel. Maybe Brandon Craig acted as the screen. Right. But, yeah, I tend to agree. I don't think it's unsavable, but yeah, first and foremost, the defending was just not good enough. Yeah. And really, we were just not reacting throughout that kind of phase of play. I mean, Phoenix were moving the ball and turning in spaces that really they shouldn't have been allowed to. And eventually when it finds a player like Armenakas, I mean, you're in trouble, right? So, yeah, it's just a bit naive, I think, and something to work on. And it's unfortunate because it comes, you know, kind of towards the end of proceedings and you're thinking like, wow, predictable, but still not any less infuriating, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it was unfortunately, it just felt like it was coming. And I mean, I know part of it is because, you know, your brain starts putting defense mechanisms in place for these sorts of things, where I think my reaction was sort of like, well, I just knew something was going to happen. You know, like it's been coming. It looks like we were going to concede. And I think the nature of the goal is still unfortunate in how it comes about. But I don't think anyone who watched that second half could say comfortably that Locomotive deserved 3 points, right? Like I think given the chances that Phoenix created, it's actually quite lucky that they get the single point that they did. So yeah, in general, just another night to forget at home, unfortunately. Luckily they've got 1 point instead of 0, and it wasn't the sort of like more embarrassing outcome as the Birmingham match. And I guess the wait goes on because Locomotive not playing again this weekend. So we have a midweek and then another midweek next week with no weekend games. So the wait goes on for quite a while before Locomotive get another crack at getting this breaking this home duck that they have.
Geez, yeah, we go to Rhode Island after Oakland. That is quite a ways away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, shall we talk about this Wednesday night on the road to Oakland then?
Yeah, so odds are you're listening to this on Wednesday morning. So tonight, Locomotive face off against Oakland Roots, and many will remember, I think, for the wrong reasons, Oakland Roots win in El Paso 3-2 for the game that I was actually in attendance for. So actually, weird stat. By the end of the season, I'll have been to 2 Oakland Roots matches, but that's a whole other thing.
Oh, really? What's the other one?
The USL show trip we're doing this like on site at Oakland thing.
Oh, no kidding. When is that?
That is in July.
How fun.
Yeah. That'll be actually shout out to Oakland Roots because they are like hooking us up. They're like, and that game's on CBS now, like actual CBS. So I'm still trying to get a CBS producer in contact, but no dice. But they're like giving us like pitch side access and stuff and like building us a set and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy actually. So
that is dope.
But yeah. So many will remember Oakland's last game and in El Paso for all the wrong reasons. Well, they are much better than when we met them then, or at least in better form. They had since parted ways with Noah Delgado as their full-time manager, and Gavin Glinton has taken over as a caretaker. And he's got them kind of flying 4 or 5. Like they've won 4 out of the last 5, and their last 2 wins are a home win against Tampa Bay and a 3-2 win on the road in Sacramento. So, yeah, Oakland Roots have. I mean, this is a bad time to play them for this Locomotive side. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, it is. Like you said, 4 wins out of their last 5. I think they've only conceded like 4 goals in that time too. So been very solid, keeping the ball out of their own net. Memo Diaz, like well on his way to becoming an Oakland Roots legend if he's not already. Still coming up with the goods. I think 3 assists for the El Pasoan and the former Locomotive player. So fair play to him. Yeah, we just don't have a good record against Oakland Roots, period. I mean, they've definitely got the beating of us more often than not. However, our last and our only win against them did come in Oakland last year. And I think Noah Dollenmeyer was one of the goal scorers, the California boy. So run it back, please. But yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, this is just not a great time to run into the Oakland Roots buzzsaw, as it were. And with all the movement that's gone on in our roster, it's hard to even predict who might make the starting 11. So yeah, it feels like a new kind of era within the season is starting almost. As we go on the road tomorrow or tonight, if you're listening to this on Wednesday morning. So yeah, I think this is a tough task, and Oakland are, comfortably mid-table, and we're still in the basement. So, I mean, every game feels like a must-win at this point.
And a little bit, battle of the caretaker managers with Gavin Glinton and Wilmer Cabrera. I don't know that we can call Wilmer a caretaker. I don't think that would be fair, because he is the head coach. But mid-season.
I suppose we'll know.
I
suppose we'll know at the end of the season whether he was a caretaker or not. But yeah.
That's fair. But yeah, Glinton, I mean, it seems like he's kind of gone a little bit back to basics in terms of like getting results with this Oakland Roots team. And one of the things that's kind of struck me too is how he's been a little bit ruthless, like since he's come in, because they've had some changes, I guess, and some players like, not permanently, but they did have some players sort of go out of the team initially. And it seems like they've worked their way back in, and guys are really like competing again for places, which I think is obviously a huge difference maker when people don't feel invincible. And he's created some competition within the ranks, and he's getting a song out of players like, Johnny Rodriguez, classic, like streaky player. We talked about the fact that he like isn't always, I guess, like, it seems like he kind of goes up and down, confidence player, that sort of thing. But their attack is in really good form. Rodriguez and Lindo Mfeka, Trayvon Reed, Hisiel Cedeno, like these guys they're all playing well. And I mean, scoring 3 goals against Sacramento is like, beating Sacramento is one thing. Scoring 3 goals against Sacramento is another thing. And scoring 3 goals against Sacramento at home is an even further task. So the fact that they've been able to pull that off is a little bit scary, because they're going to be very confident coming into this game. And I think it might be a little bit of a dichotomy, I guess, of the fact that like Locomotive will be coming in maybe not as high on confidence, and against a team that really is feeling themselves. But the one thing that certainly Locomotive have to kind of hang their hat on is the fact that under Wilmer, and just in general, the road form is better than the home form. So like, it seems like we let ourselves play a little bit more when we do go on the road.
Yeah, it does feel like they don't feel a certain kind of pressure that they feel at home, which is kind of unfortunate in a way, because you would think that you would harness that pressure into like something good and something productive, right? But there's just this mental block with this team that even Wilmer himself has acknowledged, but that doesn't seem to exist on the road. But I wasn't familiar with Gavin Glinton's game. I guess he was an assistant manager for Troy Lesane at New Mexico United. So
yeah,
little extra motivation, at least from my side as a fan, to beat this man. and how well he's doing at Oakland Roots. Fair play to him. But I did not realize he was on the New Mexico United payroll back in 2020, 2021 or thereabouts. But yeah, it's pretty incredible what he's been able to do, getting a shot as the guy, because I think it seems like his managerial career has more been as an assistant or in the academy setup of clubs, and even as a technical director. So that's always great to see new managerial talent in the North American game.
Yeah.
But just not on Wednesday night, Gavin, please.
Yeah. Chill out a little bit. Yeah, Turks and Caicos native as well, which I was trying to understand the demonym for Turks and Caicos. That it was.
What is it? I don't even know.
There was one. It said Turks and Caicos.
Okay, so Wikipedia says Turks and Caicos Islander, Turks Islander, Caicos Islander.
Okay, we'll go with that. I was
hoping for something a bit more fun.
Yeah. Turks and Caicosian.
Right.
But yeah, so Gavin Glinton off to a really good start. I guess the next question then comes in the form of with the change, do you expect Locomotive to do anything drastic lineup-wise, or do you expect there to be sort of like a one-for-one change with Rose coming out of the team and someone coming in his place? Maybe, I'm thinking like off the top of my head, you could see Joaquin Rivas in that like wide left spot. You could see Ricardo Zacarias come in that wide attacking spot, and Eric Calvillo shifted into midfield. Or do you think Wilmer uses this as an opportunity to try something like altogether different?
That's $1 million question. I really don't know what we're gonna see, or I can't even really fathom it. I guess like my first thought, my instinct is to shift Eric Calvillo back into midfield alongside Bolo Akinyote, and maybe this is the opportunity or the time to give Petr Petrovic a start. Because, he's not been bad coming off the bench, but maybe if he has more minutes to work with, he could be more impactful, and we'll only see that if we try it. And he does play really well off that left side. And I think Joaquin Rivas, for as much talent as he has, I don't know that he's necessarily made the impact that we were expecting. Yeah. And there is some mitigation for that. I think he was being misused a lot by Brian Clare out towards the end there, as was Toomey, but, that's neither here nor there. So, yeah, I mean, if there is one place that we do have options, it's kind of in those wide areas. It's more midfield where it gets a little bit concerning. But yeah, that's kind of my instinct is to just shift Eric back into that double pivot and start Petrovic and see what he can do. If he can handle it, obviously. We don't know if he's in the red zone or anything like that, but if he can handle it, then why not?
Sure. Yeah, it's an interesting stat too. I mean, with Eric going back into midfield, if that is the solution, I do wonder a little bit, just given the fact that, and obviously it's small sample size, it's a single game, but duels won. When I think about like our double pivot, that is like a combative sort of role, and you got to win a lot. And Liam Rose and Bolo Akinyote were our two top like duel winners in terms of total duels won against Phoenix. Those were the only two players that cracked the top 8 of total, like of both teams, like rankings, I guess. So Phoenix had 6 of the top 8 like dual winners, and then our next highest were Francisco Navarez and Nick Hines at fullback, so our like 2 fullbacks, and Eric Calvillo only wins 2 duels like the whole game, which does maybe suggest that like. And I think we've kind of gone back and forth on this, and like, basically, like, is Eric Calvillo good as an 8 in a 2? Because I think Eric Calvillo is a good 8 in a 3, in a midfield 3, when he's got a lot of support and can get forward more sort of regularly and with more freedom. Eric in a 2 has been sort of like hit or miss, I would say. Like, he's not bad, and I don't want to say that because he's obviously a great footballer. I'm not trying to like take away from that. But it does seem like him having a little bit of added attacking freedom always brings a little extra like out of his game. And whenever he doesn't have the ability to go do that because he's focused more defensively, or he's like focused more so on like winning the ball back and things like that, it does feel like that saps him a little bit. Like it does. His impact on the game is a little lessened when he has to do that, like the dirty work in midfield.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And to be fair, like, my suggestion is by no means like ideal necessarily.
Oh, for sure. No, and that's
but No, you make a great point. I mean, it's not Eric's game necessarily to be running back towards his own goal and putting in tackles and things like that. He's, you know, he excels at the later runs. He excels at, getting shots on target, playing other people in, like we saw with Toomey, for what ended up being Eric's goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think probably if anyone could do that work to mop up after him, it could be Bolu Akinyode. But I don't know if you'd be like stretching the shape of the entire team too far.
Sure.
If you want to get the best out of Eric and let him bomb on. So yeah, it's not ideal. And I definitely acknowledge that. And I think you make a great point, which is why it's going to be so important to see what the club does next, if anything. Because, I don't know. I guess we need to see like what Jeremy Garay actually can offer.
Yeah.
Because he is a midfielder. He's a holding midfielder as far as we know. So
yeah.
That might be an opportunity for him. But I do think you have to find a place for Eric Calvillo. I do, because I think since Wilmer has come in, we've seen another level from him.
Yeah.
And I think we should absolutely play the hot hand.
From the Phoenix match, I do want to give some credit, and like looking ahead sort of to Oakland. For the issues that there were defensively against Phoenix, I do actually want to give some credit to that back four, because I would say if you named like Miles Lyons, Brandon Craig, Noah Dolenmeyer, and Nick Hines as a back four, you'd be like, not a lot of experience, a handful of like recent sort of rough times, like for a couple of the players. Brandon Craig obviously returning from injury, all these sorts of things. And I think like there was nothing about the way that they performed, because I think more of the performance was about like a lack of control versus like a lack of good defending. There were moments certainly. But I think Noah in particular has like looked much sharper ever since this switch, and him and Brandon Craig next to each other have like acquitted themselves pretty well over the last couple of matches.
No, yeah, that's true. We're not that far removed from Brandon Craig winning the game for us against San Antonio. So yeah, they have been good, and continuity there will be good. I think like Nick Hines was great.
Yeah.
For the most part on the ball. Couple of times he got caught out when the ball was getting chucked to the back post, but that wasn't just him. That was like a systemic issue throughout the night, and one that Wilmer Cabrera will need to address. But for the most part, I have to agree with you. I think the back four has been solid, and really it's just about getting these games over the line and building more considerable and more convincing leads than we've been able to.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too to see if there's any alteration to the. I mean, we went from obviously Amando Moreno. His involvement is going to be extremely limited over the coming
Right.
months. But it does seem like Justin Dillon and Toomey are the favored pair in attack at the moment. I guess Amando should maybe be back short, like
I would think,
or maybe for Rhode Island he'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
Because they won't have the Copa America obviously to contend with, I don't believe.
Right.
So hopefully Amando's return as well can provide a spark. But do you think the Dylan Moshabane partnership gets shaken up at all in terms of maybe trying to add more of a finishing edge to the very top end of the attack?
I don't know, because I think Toomey's movement is really what sets him apart. And
Yeah.
I think I think that's worth having in the team, because he can unbalance back lines, and he is very adept at like popping up in areas and finding space. And then Dylan, I mean, Dylan's getting chances. He's just not finishing convincingly. Sure. I know he had that goal against Birmingham Legion, which was not even, 3 weeks ago, but beyond that, it's been pretty slim pickings for him. I mean, if I were to give anyone a rest, it might be him, but I guess the question then is, who plays in his stead, right? Because it seems like Wilmer Cabrera does want to proceed with 2 strikers. Maybe that's where you can give Joaquin Rivas a shout. But then I don't know if Joaquin Rivas to Mimo Shabani is too like samey or too similar. I don't know. But yeah, I guess whether Justin sits or not, like, I guess I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Yeah. Well, it'll be an interesting night. We'll obviously be following along with the action out of Oakland, but I don't know. Are you up for a watch along?
When is kickoff again? 8 o'clock?
10, 9, 8. Yeah, 8.
Should be.
Cool. So yeah, we do watch alongs for most away games on our Twitch and YouTube and on Twitter. So yeah, join in for that. The live watch alongs are always a good time. Even when the result is not. So it is,
and it's often not on the stream, unfortunately. But
we officially have a winning streak on the stream. So true. that is the one thing that we can point to. But no, so yeah, we'll be doing a live stream, watch along, just an alternate listening / viewing experience. And a place to be able to interact with us and some other Locomotive fans, and be able to live the emotions of the game together with fellow fans despite not being together in person. You can, like I said at the top of the episode, you can find all our episodes and stuff across your favorite podcast platforms. We're on all of them. We're even on YouTube. So you can literally find us pretty much anywhere. And we will likely be back between the Oakland game and Rhode Island game to look back at one and ahead at the other. As we mostly do. So anyways, hope everyone has I'll say good day, because we're kicking off tonight from the time you hear this. Until next time, stay local.